In this session of Obadiah, we're going to be looking at verses 4 to 9. I'm going to back up one verse and look at verse 3 for some context, but we're going to be teaching verses 4 to 9. And I've titled this teaching, Man-Made Security versus an All-Powerful God. What we're going to see in these verses is Edom, who is being judged by God. Edom is a nation that believes that it will not suffer military defeat. And we will also see Edom will wrongly rely on military allies and also wisdom. We'll see God say he's going to destroy the wisdom in Edom. And that reminded me of this very important concept that we see in many places in Scripture, where humans attempt a certain level of security or defense in their lives. And it's understandable that humans would seek out security. Humans do not want to be damaged or harmed. Humans, obviously we want police and insurance policies and a military. We want these things because we're aware there's others that could hurt us, or we could suffer some kind of tragedy or difficulty in life, and we want to be prepared or avoid those difficulties altogether if possible. However, in search for such things, we often become very selfish and hurt others in an attempt to have that security. And the other issue that we often run into as humans is we will seek out this security, financial security, security in good health, or security in a good location, in a good neighborhood, in the right country, with the right allies and friends. We will seek these things out, but not be in good relationship with God. And at the end of the day, at the end of our lives, at some point, that security will not be enough to stop God from judging you. God's judgment will always prevail against the most intelligent, strongest human, the most conniving human, the most careful human. No human will escape the judgment of God. And so ultimately, a human, in order to be truly secure everlastingly, one must believe in the good message that Jesus of Nazareth is the Son of God. He is God the Son, who has become a human. And he became a human so that he could suffer and die for all the wrong things that we have committed, so that we would not have to bear the penalty of our own wrongdoing. And at the same time, Christ, having lived a perfect human life, offers his perfect record of righteousness, the righteous life he lived, that can be credited to our account. And after dying, he rose from the dead, and one day he's going to rule the whole world forever at the end of human history, because he is the Christ, or the Messiah, the predicted Israelite king who would rule over all the world forever, destroy the enemies of God, resurrect and provide a perfect kingdom for his own people. So believing that is what gives us right relationship with God, and everything outside of that is a false security. The other issue with man-made security is that it also can at times trick us. It can lull us into a sense of safety, a false safety. And that's really what we're seeing here in these verses. Now, I'm going to back up to verse 3, and then we'll start in verse 4. God speaking a prophecy against the nation of Edom, and he's judging Edom. He says, "The insolence of your heart has beguiled you. The one lying in crevices of a crag, the heights of his dwelling, saying in his heart, who will bring me down to earth?" Verse 4, "If you rise high like the eagle, and if your nest is being set between stars, from there I will bring you down in affirmation of Yahweh." So Edom is arrogant in his heart. He believes he has good location militarily. He is elevated, literally. He's high up. And he feels, who is going to assault the nation of Edom? Who will successfully breach our defenses? I'm very high up and no one's bringing me down. And God is saying, even if you rise higher than that to where the eagles are, even if your nest, your home is among the stars, even from there, I will bring you down. So you're issuing a challenge. Who's going to bring me down? And God's answering, I will do it. I will bring you down. An affirmation of Yahweh. That's another way of saying a guarantee of Yahweh. I insist this is true. Of course, it would be true even without that affirmation, but all the more with the affirmation. Here we see the man-made effort to protect themselves, the man-made effort to secure good location, good home, good bank account, get yourself in a city that is economically doing well and there's no signs of it slowing down. Get yourself into a place on earth where people believe there's not going to be military difficulty there. Go to a city that will not be conquered. Go to a place where the nation isn't going to collapse. Go somewhere where there is no civil war. Go somewhere where you're not going to be conquered by another nation. The problem is, no matter how high you ascend, no matter how far you go with your man-made security, no matter how much safety you achieve, you will never be safe from the hands of a sovereign, all-powerful God. Even if, like Elon Musk, you plan to go to another planet, even if you successfully colonize the stars, even from there, God will humble you. So here we see man-made security versus an all-powerful God. Jeremiah 23:23-24. Am I a God near at hand, says Yahweh, and not a God afar off? Can anyone hide himself in secret places, so I shall not see him, says Yahweh? Do I not fill heaven and earth, says Yahweh? So he's saying, you can't run away from me. You cannot hide your sin from me. There's nowhere you can go where I am not God. There is no life you can live where, after it ends, you don't face me. I fill heaven and earth. I am everywhere. And so, the answer to the problem of a holy God who's not going away isn't to ignore him or pursue things in life that might, numb that pain or make you forget or entertain yourself until you die. The answer to the God problem is to face him head on and take the offer that he has given to humanity very generously and mercifully in Jesus Christ. Change your mind. Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. Have your sins forgiven. And then you will have true security, even when you're not in a safe location, even when your bank account is in the negative. Okay, Obadiah, verse 5. Here, we're going to see God describe the judgment that's coming. And what makes this particular judgment very interesting to me is that it seems that God is suggesting, I could have sent a less severe judgment and you would have survived it. But that's not what's going to happen. I'm sending you a severe, nation-ending judgment, which makes me think of, if we were to personalize it, there are times when sinners suffer, even Christians who sin that suffer. And there are different levels of judgment that God might dish out. And there are some who very foolishly believe that whatever difficulty comes their way in life, they will rebound or they will overcome it. They might have setbacks in life, but they will ultimately prevail. This is foolish, because there will come a time, there will come a day when God will send a judgment that you will not survive. There will be a day when you have an illness that you do not recover from. There will be a day when you can no longer access your bank account. There will be a day when the thing that gives you joy will not be there anymore. So, again, we're left with the same conclusion that I just got done talking about. The solution to this problem of being before a holy God, this issue of there is no real, genuine security from Him. The answer is to join Him. But let's read these verses. Let's read this judgment. God says, if thieves entered to you, if those devastating at night, whereby have you been likened? Wouldn't they steal their sufficiency? Okay, let me explain this verse. I personally would add parentheses to this middle line here. For one moment, this line, whereby have you been likened? I want you to just pretend like that's not there for a moment. I'm going to read the first part of the sentence and the last part. If thieves enter to you, if those devastating at night, wouldn't they steal their sufficiency? God is saying, if thieves were your judgment, if, hypothetically, they were your judgment, they would come in and they would take what they want, and that's it. They would just steal what they personally wanted to steal. They would steal until, their sacks were full and they literally couldn't take any more. In other words, if thieves came and stole from you, you would have survived that. You would have things left over. It wouldn't have been that bad. It would have been bad, just not terrible. And then he says the same thing again. I'm going to come back to this line, whereby have you been likened? And then he essentially says the same thing. If those withholding enter to you, wouldn't they cause gleanings to remain? If those withholding, this is another way of saying stealing. So he's saying the same thing twice. If thieves came, they wouldn't have taken everything, just their fill. And again, if thieves entered to you, they would have left gleanings. Gleanings are the things left over when you're harvesting. So when you go out and harvest something like grain, you take your tool and you cut down a lot of them, but there's some left over, and the widow can come and eat it. Same concept. If thieves entered to you, they would not have taken everything. There would have been stuff left over. You would have survived that difficulty. Now, this line back here, that's sandwiched in the middle of this sentence here. Whereby have you been likened? I view this as almost like a poetic outcry in the middle of a thought. It's kind of like saying, if thieves enter to you, if those devastating at night, oh, where have you been likened? Wouldn't they steal their sufficiency? So that's how I'm understanding this line, whereby have you been likened? I think it's like an actor poetically breaking mid-thought to lament what is going to happen to Edom. Whereby have you been likened? I think that's another way of saying the judgment that's coming your way is unlike anything else. I mean, what can I even compare this to, this judgment that's coming your way? So the idea of verse 5 is, if thieves were your judgment, it wouldn't be that bad. Verse 6, whereby has Esau been searched? His caches have been requested. This is another way of saying Esau has been thoroughly ransacked. The people that are coming to enter into Esau, that God himself summoned, we saw that in the very first verses of Obadiah, that an ambassador went out to the nations, and the nations have been caused by God to war against Esau. God's the one causing this. Well, the ones that are coming to Esau, they will thoroughly search him. They're going to go through all of the houses, all of the territory, and take everything from Esau. His caches have been requested. Caches are those stores of goods, foods, jewelry, all manner of objects. These are your precious things, your caches. These are secure things. God is saying, all of those riches that you have stored up in your safe, so to speak, they have been requested by God and by the nations that are coming to militarily conquer you. Okay, Obadiah 7. Here we see the futility of having allies. Here we see the man-made security of national allies, having military allies. We can see this on a national level. I think we can also see it on a personal level. I think very often individuals find a false security in numbers that, okay, well, I'm not a Christian, I'm rejecting the gospel, and so they immerse themselves in a community, in a friend group that is not Christian, and that gives them the sense that, hey, if bad things happen in life, at least I got my friends. My friends will help me get through it. Well, those friends are unreliable. Or on the national level, a nation that rejects God, which all of them do, they find a false security in allying themselves with other nations. This is unreliable. This is futile. Because God can cause those friendships to stop being friendships. Obadiah 7, all the men of your covenant have sent you away until the border. He's speaking to Edom here. All the men of your covenant. I take this covenant to be like national covenant or a military covenant. Hey, why don't we make this river a border between our nations, and let's trade with one another. Let's not conquer one another. Let's enter into a covenant. If you get attacked, we'll help you. If we get attacked, you helped us. So all the men of your covenant have sent you away until the border. This is another way of saying those nations that you thought were your military friends, the ones you traded with, that your natural allies, they're pushing you out of their country. They're rejecting your friendship. They're taking the citizens of your country and kicking them out of their own country. They're pushing you out of their country all the way to the border. They have beguiled you. They have tricked you. You think you're friends, but behind closed doors, in their legal proceedings, in their, the king's cabinet, when they have those private conversations about how they're going to handle their national friendships, they do not think well of you. They're not really your friends. They plan on hurting you, or at the very least, not helping you when you get attacked. They have beguiled you. They tricked you. They put on a smile on their face when they meet you. They shake your hands. They give you presents. They take you out to nice restaurants and have fun with you, but they're tricking you. They're not really your friends. Men of your well-being have been able toward you. This is the same concept. God's a big fan of saying things 2 times in a row. It's the same idea. Men of your well-being, your friends, the people who maybe they really were originally for your well-being. They just wanted the best for you. Or you could say hypothetically, the men who were hypothetically your friends, that were for your well-being, they have been able towards you, meaning they've been strengthened in such a way as to hurt you. They have been successfully able to overcome you. They're strong against you. They set your bread as a legion under you. This is probably the most curious line in these verses. When I was studying and preparing for this teaching, this was the sentence I spent the most time thinking about what it could mean. And I am going to suggest an interpretation here. They set your bread as a legion under you. So they are your hypothetical allies. They're taking your Edom's bread and they're setting it as a lesion or a wound under you, Edom. Now, the way I interpret this is Edom is giving bread to these people, and it might be literal. It might literally be food. Bread is often the word for food. It represents food when you use it. But it could also just mean any kind of basic provision. So let's hypothetically say Edom is hiring, I just forgot the name of them. I had the word and then it escaped me. Who are the soldiers? The soldiers that you can, that are for hire. Let's say they hire soldiers to protect themselves, and they provide them with food, or maybe beyond food, weapons, military information. So Edom is giving them a positive thing, a good thing. However, these supposed allies are going to turn on Edom. The very good thing you give to them, they are going to take that good thing and turn it around, and it's ultimately going to be a lesion for Edom. It's going to be a wound for Edom. So maybe Edom is going up against some other nations, and they're thinking in the back of their head, we got those mercenaries. That's the word I was looking for earlier. We got those mercenaries, those soldiers for hire, and, we've already set up a contract. We're already sending them bread and weapons. We are going to be fine in this, this little battle or war here. Well, you're being tricked. You don't see that the very people that you hired, the very people that you're trading with, the very people you think are your friends and you're giving them good things, those very people are going to betray you, and they're going to use your own provisions against you. This makes me think of the situation, we hear it in the news once in a while, where a nation will give weapons to another nation, but then for whatever reason, that government loses control of the weapons to another force, or maybe they just turn around and sell the weapons to some terrorist group. The weapons that are provided for by the original nation, they end up in the hands of someone who would hurt that nation. So that's kind of the idea here. Edom is hoping that the good things they're giving to their allies is a sign of their friendship, but really it's going to come back and bite them. So these people are going to betray Edom. And then this last line, there is no comprehension in him. Speaking of Edom, how often does this happen? How often do humans get judged by God? And maybe it's even obvious to the people around the individual. The individual is living a reckless life of drugs, for example. Can you not perceive the fate that is coming? And the answer is no. They often don't. They don't have comprehension of the looming doom that is coming upon them. They don't perceive the axe that is being sharpened and laid against them. I see this sometimes in certain romantic relationships. I've seen an unbelieving person, very confidently say that they have found the love of their life, and I know the individual is not a righteous person. They don't perceive what they're entering into. They don't see the danger. That's the idea here with Edom. All of this stuff is happening either behind closed doors, or maybe it's happening before their eyes and they just lack the perception to see it. But there is no comprehension in him. This is what arrogance does to a person, as we saw in verse 3. This is what happens with proud people. They do not understand the danger that they are in. Verse 8 and 9, isn't it in that day an affirmation of Yahweh that I will destroy wise ones from Edom and comprehension from the mountain of Esau? An affirmation of Yahweh, yet another way of saying, this is going to happen. Isn't it in that day? Sometimes when you see this phrase, that day, it refers to the second coming of Christ. Other times it refers to some judgment that takes place in history. I'm not confident, but I lean toward this referring to a specific historical judgment that has already taken place. But these things would certainly apply to the second coming of Christ. When Christ comes back, he is going to destroy all unbelievers, and including so-called wise ones. But in the day of Edom's judgment, which God is prophesying in this book, he will destroy wise ones and comprehension. This is really powerful to me. We see this idea echoed in 1 Corinthians when it says, will I not destroy the wisdom of the wise? Will he not frustrate the comprehension of smart people? God hates human wisdom. He hates earthly wisdom. I hate earthly wisdom. I've gone through the public school system. I graduated from college, and I am aware of how the richer, more affluent people in society think in the United States. I know how the academic world thinks and how they educate the next education, and they are very foolish. They're very foolish. They are steeped in the falsehood of evolution. They try their very best to rid their perception and interpretation of reality of God. They have a complete whack idea of what morality is. Things that they call good are evil. Things that are evil they call good. They are not wise, but they think themselves wise. And society props them up as wise. People perceive them as wise and ask for their advice. They write books that spread this so-called wisdom. That's the type of wisdom and comprehension that is in Edom right now. Remember, Edom and Esau are the same thing. Esau is Edom. God is going to destroy all of that. And it is a reminder of this reality for each and every one of us. The things that are not true that we latch onto will be destroyed one day. The prevailing viewpoint of today, the one that dominates the news and talk shows, the one that, as you go and talk to people, it's the prevailing interpretation of reality. All of that will be annihilated by God one day. Edom is no exception. I will destroy your wise ones. I'm going to destroy your lawyers, your college professors. I'm going to destroy your politicians. I'm going to destroy all your advisors, all your CEOs, all the people you think are smart and know a thing or two. I'm destroying them. And comprehension, all of those precious worldviews you have and all those doctrines you think are correct, I'm destroying them. Verse 9, and your mighty ones will be in trepidation. Teman, for the sake that a man will be cut out from the mountain of Esau from assassination. So in verse 8, it's like, I'm going to destroy your thinking. And in verse 9, I'm destroying your strength. So your smarts aren't going to save you and your muscles aren't going to save you. You're not going to outsmart God and you're not going to outfight him. I'm going to destroy your wisdom and I'm going to destroy your strength, your military strength, and maybe on an individual personal level. Listen, you're not strong in the sight of God. God can make you sick very easily. He can injure you permanently very easily. He did it with Jacob, Esau's twin, in the book of Genesis. You're not going to pick a fight with God and win, either intellectually or by strength. So God's saying, I'm going to destroy your wise ones, and I'm also going to destroy your soldiers, the strongest people in your civilization. They're going to be in trepidation. They're going to be scaredy pants. They're going to be shaking. Teman, this is a city or area in Edom. And they're going to be in trepidation, but they're going to be in trepidation for good reason, because I'm going to cut them out. That means kill them with assassination. So this is going to be some type of military conquest. I'm going to kill the people in your society, including the strong ones. All right, friends, I'm going to end here, but this is just a reminder of this very important idea that man-made security, whether it's wisdom, whether it's our own strength, whether it's allies or friends, having the right affluent friends, or so many friends, or having a good location, moving to the right neighborhood, everything's gonna be okay if you do that. Not so, not versus an all-powerful God that we must answer to someday. So the answer is to ally ourselves with Yahweh before that great judgment. And it begins with faith in Jesus Christ, the risen God-man. It begins with believing in him. And then from there, we continue to walk in God's ways, submit our thinking to his thinking. Romans 12:1, we want to be transformed in our thinking. Proverbs 3, we don't want to rely on our own understanding, but in all our ways trust him, and we trust him by trusting the Bible. Okay, until then, grace and peace to you.